That's so good to see that people are like saying hi in the chat. So
yeah, a lot of waving. Hello.
That's great. Okay, and I think that we are 100% live now. So
Yay.
guys, please, if you can hear us, let us know in the chat. So
hello, everyone.
Sorry, we are like 2 minutes late. There was a little tech problem, but now it's all done. So hello, hi guys. So great.
Hi.
Now we are 100% live. So hello everybody. So cool to see so many faces, so many people joining us today. So I could see that you already exchanged some stories, and some of you have just finished your classes. So I hope that you will relax during this webinar. And so I think that we can start now. So as we announced in our topic today, we are going to talk about teaching speaking to our young students. So, and it's a very important topic because basically the main objective of teaching any language is to allow your students to speak freely and fluently. And the main objective of any language is a communicative one, right? So, and to do so, to discuss this topic, let me introduce our speaker for today. So welcome, teacher Sarah. So Sarah is a NovaKid teacher, so with a lot of experience, and she has been with NovaKid for over 3 years now, right? So Sarah has a bachelor's degree in early childhood development, a TEFL certification, and a Search and Teach qualification from the National Institute for Learning Development. She has been teaching since 2015, and apart from teaching here at NovaKid, she is also tutoring some private students offline. So she's experienced with any type of classes. So let's say hi to Sarah. Hello and welcome.
Thank you, Lisa. Hello, everyone. So nice to be here. So nice to see so many familiar names. Hi, everyone.
So that's great. And let me introduce myself. My name is Lisa. I'm from the teacher development team here at NovaKid, and I'm responsible for the webinars. I'm also an ESL teacher and teacher trainer. And so hello, everybody, and welcome again. So I think that we are ready to start our presentation, and let us briefly cover our agenda for today, right? So first, we are going to talk about some problems and challenges that you can have and your students can have when on this difficult road to speaking fluently. After that, we will discuss different age groups and more importantly, different level groups. We will talk about fluent students, or we can say that students with some prior knowledge. Then we will talk about some beginner students who don't have any prior knowledge at all. After that, we will summarize everything and provide you with a few tips. And after that, as usual, we are going to have our Q&A session. So if you have any questions throughout this webinar, please don't hesitate to ask them in the chat box, and we will do our best to answer them later. Our webinar is going to take about 1 hour. If you participated yesterday, you don't have to do it today because the material is going to be the same, but you're welcome to stay if you want. So, and also don't forget that after we finish, we will publish the feedback form in the chat. And if you fill in this feedback form, you will get the certificate. So stay with us up to the end. Okay, so I think that I've covered everything. Let us talk about why we chose this topic for today. So student talk time share is quite like can be quite a problematic thing when teaching, and we can see it for many reasons. First of all, we can see our assessment results, and student talk time share is one of the most problematic criteria that our teachers deal with. And maybe not problematic, but at least it's something to struggle with. And we can also see that a lot of teachers ask our teacher support to assist when their students refuse to speak or when they don't show any progress because there is not much oral output. And of course, when your student is not speaking enough, it can be a reason for a negative feedback from your parents. But it's quite easy to, how to say, so it's quite easy to overcome, and we will cover a lot of techniques today. And you're welcome to share your experience as well. So before we start, I have a question for you. So When you teach your young students how to speak, what challenges do you face? So please answer in the chat box.
All right, let's see what our teachers are saying.
So,
mums interfere. Oh, that is, yes.
Actually, that's something
definitely.
that nobody mentioned yesterday, but yes,
No.
It is a problem. So shy students are distracted. So sometimes they struggle with pronunciation and fluency. That's right.
Afraid to make mistakes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So sometimes they're just listening and repeating. We're also going to cover it today.
Oh, distracted with toys. That's a very good one. I don't think anyone mentioned that yesterday either.
Yeah, so that can be there can be a lot of problems actually that prevent a student from speaking, even if they can, because we all know that sometimes the lack of skills is not the only problem that they face. So sometimes they're just not interested in talking to you, right? So that's true. Okay,
yeah, they've just been put there.
Sometimes it really happens. Sometimes it's not their wish to be in the class, it's their parents. So we can understand them. Okay, guys, thank you so much for so many ideas. But why is it challenging for our students to speak? So Sarah, can you please tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. So what is the first thing? Students' personality. Okay, sharing personal information is not so common for everyone. Some students are open to discussing things with you, others not so much. It's okay. It's important to note whether your student is comfortable or not to share. Don't push them. We also have introverted students. A lot of our teachers said shy students as well. Very true. And I'm sure we've all dealt with those kind of reserved students that don't really participate much. They may be able to speak to you and communicate, but that doesn't mean that they will. It's important to make your students feel comfortable so that they will open up to you. Next, we have country of origin. So this plays an important role as well. For example, students from Korea or Japan may be very private and therefore won't really give you many details about a topic. Also, students from Turkey or Spain may be interested in talking more since this is more culturally appropriate. But again, it depends on the child. Okay, our next one is fear of making mistakes. I see someone did mention that as well. It's also a common trait in adults, but think of how scary it must be for your younger students to be learning a completely new language and trying their best and being nervous that they're going to mess it up or disappoint you. And lastly, we have stress of a new teacher. So imagine your student has been with a specific teacher for a while, they've gotten used to how they teach, and suddenly they have a substitute for their next lesson. They are going to be under some pressure. You know, they want to show you their skills, but you might be a stranger to them, so that makes them really nervous. So it just depends on your student, and you have to try and make them feel comfortable and safe so that they will open up to you. What do you think, Lisa?
That's great. Thank you so much, Sarah. Indeed, there are a lot of obstacles that our students have to overcome. And if you learned a foreign language in your life, you know how stressful it can be. And especially this part when you start speaking, because when you don't know much, it can really make you nervous. So, we can't deny that. So, okay, great. And as announced in our topic, we are going to cover different level groups. And first, we are going to talk about students who already have prior knowledge. So basically, students who have all the challenges that you mentioned in the chat. So when the material that they know is not their main problem. Okay, so when you teach your students who are, let's say, advanced or fluent, do you have any tips or tricks how to make them speak more? So if you have any tricks, please answer in the chat box.
Let's see, what tips, what tricks do you use? Open-ended questions. Okay, cute
Good
props.
So
Yeah,
good
sweet.
props can work with any level of your students.
Ask them about their favorite Pokemon. Yes, I think that gets a lot of the students talking. Video games or yeah, Pokemon. That's a winner.
So we can see that a lot of answers with questions and open-ended questions in particular. Of course, if your students are able to answer those questions, it can really contribute to their speaking practice. So using props, adapting to their interests. So that's great. Observe their background and find something that can be related to their personal life. That's true. Okay, using voice variation, also true. So, okay, great, guys. A lot of techniques. So let's move on to the next one. So basically, there are many techniques that you can use to get your students to speak. And of course, personalizing the lessons and asking relevant and open-ended questions can help a lot. But you can turn any activity and even some grammar or vocabulary activities into the speaking practice as well. And basically, we are going to cover a lot of techniques, but there are 3 of them in general. So first of all, it is eliciting. So when you help your student and let them know what you expect from them, and then let them finish and speak in complete sentences. Then it's modeling. Modeling is something that when you show your student how they are supposed to answer your questions and actually help them and give them some tips also about what you expect from them. And another important technique that we use is error correction, because as we said before, many students are afraid of making mistakes, and proper error correction can let them feel comfortable, but also it can elicit more practice, more speaking output from them. Okay, so to demonstrate that, we have prepared some role play. So, and for some obvious reasons, we can't put real classes videos in our presentations for the YouTube, but we did our best to, present you with our role plays. So Sarah is going to be my teacher. I'm going to be your student, and your task will be to watch us playing, and after that decide what techniques we used in this fragment. Okay, so I'm ready. Are you ready?
Okay. Yes, ready. All right, let's go. Lisa, which animal runs better?
Horse.
A horse runs better or flies better than a penguin?
A horse runs better than a penguin.
Good. Can a penguin fly?
No, it can't.
Great job, Lisa. All right, what techniques did you guys identify? Let's see.
So we already see CPR, eliciting, choices, modeling. Great, guys.
Yeah, a lot of TPR, yes. So one thing to note is that TPR should be a standard practice. We should use it all the time. It should be something that you do naturally to help your students. They gather a lot of information from that.
Yeah, as well as intonations and voice variations. So
definitely.
So, okay, CCQs, that's right. Okay, and I think that eliciting as well. Great. Yes. Okay, let's check what the answer is.
So we have, of course, eliciting, but more specifically, alternative questions. So these are a great way to give your students 2 options of an answer so that they can think and choose the correct one for themselves. It also gives them a chance to think of the whole sentence and then give you a complete sentence as an answer. And also follow-up questions. So these are really helpful to make the topic more interesting, give your student more confidence to continue the conversation, and of course, get your student to speak. So let's move on to our next example. Okay. Ready, Lisa?
Yes, ready.
Okay. What is he going to do on Wednesday?
On Wednesday, he tidy.
On Wednesday, he tidy.
He is going to tidy.
Good. What is she going to do on Saturday?
She read a book.
What do we say?
She is going to read a book.
Good job, Lisa. Okay, let's see what our chat is saying.
So, great. Okay, I can see that some teachers say error correction and also repetition, but how do we call it? So what error correction?
Yes.
So
yes, we know it's error correction, but specifically what kind of what example of error correction?
So, and self-correction is also correct, but what type of that? So
scaffolding.
Scaffolding.
Interesting.
Okay, guys, you had a very good idea about repetition, right? Sarah actually repeated my incorrect answer. So reformulation is a nice one, but it wasn't because Sarah didn't change it anyhow. So okay, that's not a problem. Actually, this is a very good answer. So indeed, it is error correction, but what type of error correction, Sarah?
Okay, so we used echoing. So error correction, yes, but more specifically echoing. Now, I repeated Lisa's wrong sentence to give her the opportunity to fix it herself, since the student should already know the answer in the correct structure at this stage. Also, we used a clarification request by asking, what do we say? This is a gentle way of saying that the student made a mistake and needs to correct it. So I've given the student the opportunity to speak more. I've given her time to process what is needed, and therefore she's more likely to understand and correct the sentence and the tense and to answer the questions in full.
Yeah, I think that also just wanted to add something. So as for clarification request, it is a really good example. For example, you ask, what do you say? But it can be anything else. But depending on your student level, if they're not that fluent yet, probably it should be something that they know. So if you re-ask in different words, it can be confusing for a student. But if they know that this is how you ask for clarification, then it will work definitely.
Yes,
okay, guys.
exactly.
So I can see that now, so everybody's typing echoing. That's
echoing,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's go on to our next one. Okay. All right. Which animal is bigger?
And bear is big and wolf small.
Good. A bear is bigger than a wolf.
A bear is bigger than a wolf.
Good. Which animal is shorter?
A rabbit.
A rabbit is?
A rabbit is shorter than a deer.
Well done, Lisa. Okay, let's see what our teachers are saying this time.
So somebody says that I always do that, but I didn't know what it's called. It's completely fine. Don't worry about that. So now you know. So modeling, prompting. Okay, there was some modeling or probably eliciting.
Cliffhanger, TPR. TPR always. Gestures, TPR.
A reformulation. That's right. Okay, now
exactly. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Okay, so error correction and eliciting. Of course, we had reformulation. So this is really helpful to improve your students' accuracy as well. I said the correct sentence without drawing the attention to the student's mistake. Also, cliffhanger. I see a lot of our teachers said cliffhanger as well. By repeating the phrase that Lisa said up to the point of error, I gave her another chance to self-correct and finish the sentence. What do you think, Lisa?
So yeah, that's right. And also, for example, the cliffhanger technique can be an error correction technique, but it can be also an eliciting technique or a modeling technique if you wish. So basically, you just let your student know how to, continue the sentence, right? So
Exactly.
okay, there are many techniques that sorry.
No, I was just going to say it obviously depends on your student, and you will get to know what works best for them. It's all about trial and error and figuring out what works and what doesn't. So yeah, what works for some students may not work for others, so you will just have to figure it out.
Great. Okay. And now let's
shall we go
Mm-hmm.
to our next one? Okay. All right. Lisa, what would you like to eat for lunch? I would like
to eat pizza for lunch and candies.
Candies. Can you ask me?
What would you like?
What? Good. I would like pasta and meat. Do you like pasta?
Yes.
Yes.
I like pasta.
Great job. Okay, now let's see what our teachers are saying.
So what techniques did we use this time? So Lauren says that a lot of techniques can be used in different contexts. So alternative questions can also be a listed technique. So that's right. Absolutely. So that's what I wanted to say. Basically, the main point is to make them diverse, because if you correct the mistakes the same way all the time, it can get a little bit boring and repetitive. But if you use different techniques, even if you don't know what they're called, it will make your class more engaging for your students. Okay, so what was that?
Okay, so it was modeling. Now, you can elicit the sentences that you want your student to say completely by modeling an example first. You can also do this with questions, and it just guides the student to use the same structure that you used. And it starts to give them the confidence so that they can use the phrases independently. So shall we look at our next one?
Just wanted to add something that
Yes.
Providing, a conversation with the student and asking the students to ask you questions can also work magic, especially once they understand what is expected of them. So I really like this example because Sarah actually asked me to ask her a question and shared some personal information with me. Right.
Yeah, my students love doing that now. Once we've gotten over that first stage and they start to ask me, and they like, sometimes they'll interrupt me and they're like, no, I'm asking me, teacher. So it does become really fun when they get that grasp of it. Okay, so let's go to our next one. All right, Lisa, let's talk. Choose a topic.
My lunch.
Great. What did you have for lunch yesterday?
Yesterday I have pasta for lunch because my grandma has birthday and a cake.
Ooh, happy birthday, Grandma. What kind of cake did you eat?
Chocolate cake. My grandma always cooks chocolate cake because I like chocolate.
Wow, I love chocolate cake too. So what do we say? I have pasta or I had pasta?
I had pasta.
Well done. Okay, let's see if our teachers got this one.
So somebody likes chocolate cake too, or pasta. That's great. Okay. So what was that? Tegan says delayed error correction, which is 100% correct. But also it was personalizing and listing and asking an alternative question. That's right. Okay, but So what was that?
Yeah, exactly. It was delayed error correction. So if you have a student that can be quite self-conscious or scared about making mistakes, you can wait until they finished a part of the task and then correct them by guiding them to the correct word or phrase. And this is just a gentle way of pointing out the error. And most times your student realizes their mistakes, and then this really solidifies the correction. So they're less likely to make it again in the future.
So basically, delayed error correction is a good way to set a positive learning environment for a student, because nobody loves being interrupted. You don't like it, your students don't like it too. So, and also another thing that we observed that in this example is skipped correction, because of course I made more than one mistake, but there's probably no point in correcting every single mistake during fluency tasks, because your student will probably not remember all of the corrections, and also if it's not connected with the material that you're covering at the moment, and if the mistake the student is making doesn't impede understanding, probably it's okay to skip some of the mistakes. Great. Okay, so that's good. Basically, what we've covered really helps us a lot to build a natural speaking practice, even when we are covering some other exercises, not only some speaking slides, but also, as we mentioned before, it's very important to use different techniques to make them diverse, because it can get boring if you use the same technique all over again. And it's also important to incorporate those techniques in your lesson flow to make it feel really natural, right?
Exactly. Thank you, Lisa. So lesson structure also plays a really important role. You want to start off with the simple things and slowly increase the complexity so that your student copes with the transition. This will give a good lesson flow and build confidence in your student, because they can see they are understanding the material while being challenged to improve without making things so difficult that the student would get frustrated.
So that's right. So, and thank you for comments, guys. So I love that you agree with me that not every mistake should be corrected, especially when a student is doing like this free talk practice. So that's great. Okay, thank you for participating in our practical task. But as you mentioned before, those techniques can really help to turn every activity into speaking activity. But luckily, here in NovaKid, and I think that in every other book that you use to teach, for example, if you don't work with NovaKid yet, there are some tasks that are dedicated to speaking. So some places of the lesson when you expect the students to speak and to actually use everything that they've learned so far. And for example, we have free talk slides, right? And you can see one example of this free talk slide now in the presentation. So please type in the chat box what questions you would ask to adapt this free talk activity to your student needs and interests. Let's try to brainstorm.
What do you think is going to be the most popular topic today?
I already see that somebody mentioned birthday, so
yeah, I think that's the go-to.
So what exact questions? You can choose any topic. So what questions could you ask to make it really personalized? Do you like to go to the park? We have an example. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's a good question, but it requires a yes or no answer. So not much speaking, right?
I think if you start with that and always build on, because you want to extend that as much as you can and let your student do more of the talking.
Yeah, that's right. What day is it today? And what do you do every Tuesday? I love this example. So basically it's related to the student and also helps them practice the material that they've learned before.
Is your birthday in summer or winter? And
I remember yesterday somebody asked the question, is it hot or cold when it's your birthday? So I also love this question. Yeah. So what cake do you like for your birthday? That's so cool. Nobody ever asked me the question.
No, that's a very good one.
Yes, I love that. So what do you like to do in the park, right? So which is your favorite day of the week? That's true. So what is the best birthday gift that you can get? So this is and then actually that's a good question, because after that you can continue the conversation and ask your students some follow-up questions, like whether they received this gift or they want this gift. So as long as it's adapted to your students' needs, right?
Exactly.
And level.
Yeah. I think there's always so many questions that you can ask just from one, you just build this web of questions and answers and conversation, which is great.
So Tegan says that Novaki teachers try to remember so teaching tips so to the slides, some comments to the slides, which is great. Oh, great, guys. But
Exactly.
this activity is very creative. You can come up with your own questions as long as they are level appropriate, of course.
Exactly.
So,
and of course, giving your students the freedom to express themselves. That's, the most important, and incorporating their ideas and their interests and building their confidence.
So
that's
great,
exactly
guys.
it.
Okay,
very
thank
good.
you so much. And I think that you can actually check the chat. And if you didn't have any creative ideas how to ask these questions, please take these ideas from the chat. Okay.
Yes, there's so many ideas there. So let's go on to our let's talk slide. Okay, now it's important to discuss ways to personalize the questions to your student. Okay. You can always adapt things depending on the student's level, and I'm going to give you an example now. So with this question, sometimes the students may not understand what interesting means. So I will say, what job do you like? Or what job would you like to do? Okay, also, I will start the next part by saying, I am a teacher. And then I will say, what job does your mum do? Do you know somebody who is a chef? What does dad do at work? By simplifying the questions and giving these examples, your student can better understand the question and feel more confident to answer. I also like to make my students laugh and feel comfortable and enjoy the lessons and have fun, of course. So I pull funny faces and weird expressions. I'm very animated. So when it comes to asking what job they think is boring, I'll ask it like this. What job do you think is boring? And the students almost always laugh at this. They think it's really fun, really funny, and they just understand what I'm really trying to say. So of course we use TPR, and you let your student build from there and finish off the sentences how they like.
Great, thank you so much. I also love the idea of sharing first. For example, if you say that I'm a teacher, it's both modeling and you also like share some personal experience. In different contexts, it can be even more personal. If you are willing to share something with your student, they will more likely want to share back with you, right? Okay,
exactly.
Thank you so much. We've discussed quite a few techniques. If you use anything else in your class that we haven't covered, feel free to share in the chat box. Probably you will help some teachers to adopt them to their own classes, right? So, but what if your students simply don't have any prior knowledge or any skills to speak fluently or anyhow? So what can we do to actually start this speaking practice in our classes? And we have a question for you. So what can you expect from your level 0 and level 1 students? For those teachers who don't teach at NovaKid, level 0 is a preschool level and level 1 is the level for complete beginners. So what can you expect from a student who has just started level 0 or level 1? So
nothing. I was waiting for that. I knew that was coming. Nothing.
So parrots, that's right. Yes or no answers. That's true. So
cry. Yeah.
Oh, I hope that they won't cry. So but it happens sometimes. Yeah. Okay, basically that's right, guys. So
exactly.
You're right.
Okay, so let's have a look at the prior knowledge guide. So at level 0 and going into level 1, the student is not expected to read or blend yet, but they can repeat after the teacher. They can follow simple and shorted instructions with TPR and modeling. They can start to name some common objects, animals, food, basic colors, shapes, start counting, and answer simple questions. This helps in creating a basis which we will use to build their speaking skills.
So that's right. Basically, we've covered a lot of topics before in the webinars. We talked about teaching grammar, teaching vocabulary, and we also we always mentioned that so first to speak, they need some basics like vocabulary and grammar and some reading, not necessarily reading skills, but vocabulary and grammar definitely add up to a good speaking practice. But as you mentioned, as we mentioned, what your students can do at every level, even if it's their very first lesson, English lesson in their life. So it's parroting, right? So parroting is when your students just repeat everything that you say. It can be your questions, it can be your instructions. They just, instead of following your instructions and answering your questions, they just repeat after you, right? So my question is it really bad? Do you think that parroting is bad or not so bad, and why?
I'm very curious to see what our teachers say. No.
That's
interesting.
Good. But let's be honest, it can be annoying, right?
Yes.
Totally. So, but
yes.
why? And why it can be bad, why it can be.
It depends. Listening is the start of learning a new language.
So, yeah, that's good, actually. So, I'm so happy that we all agree on that. So basically, of course, parroting, as we mentioned before, is something that we can expect from our students. And it's actually a good sign. I think that we all can agree that if your student doesn't repeat after you, but just like is silent, it is much, much worse. Right. And parroting is a sign that your student is actually engaged and producing some language in the way that they can. And of course, after some teaching, they will be ready to actually follow your instructions and answer your questions. But sometimes, like during those few first lessons, it is the case, and it is a good sign.
Exactly, Lisa. So I taught a boy last year, and when we started, he could only repeat and copy what I said. There was no help from the parents. They would literally put him in front of the computer and leave the room, and that was that. So with a lot of patience, a lot of different techniques, a lot of praise, a lot of effort, after months and months, he finally started to understand my questions and actually answer me. It was a huge breakthrough, and it was definitely worth it in the end. So I will say to all our teachers, it does get better. Just persevere and have a lot of patience.
Yes, that's right. And actually, I think that it feels so good when a student actually starts producing some language independently, right? So...
Exactly. And giving them a lot of praise and positive reinforcement is very important as well. Think of how you feel if someone tells you that you're wrong. You know, you want your student to feel comfortable, and you want to build their confidence so that they can actually reach their potential.
That's great. I can see some examples. You say yes, and they say yes.
Yes.
That's why we say that it's important to eliminate some incidental language and avoid verbal instructions in your very first classes, because otherwise they will just repeat everything that you say. Instead, you can just do some gesture like this, which everybody knows, and like yes. And then they will say yes, what you actually expect from them. Okay,
Exactly.
Great. Now we have one more role play. This time, after you watch us watch this example, please decide what is right and what is wrong with this example, and try to elaborate on your answers, right?
Okay.
I'm ready.
Ready. All right. Lisa, look, is this a boy or a girl?
Boy.
Good job. How many boys? One.
1, 2, 3.
Great job. Look at this girl. What is she wearing? She is wearing.
She is wearing.
Okay. Okay,
guys,
it
what
is
was
an
right?
example of what not to do.
Why not? It wasn't that bad. Okay. So,
Curious to see what our teachers say.
so
Language not appropriate.
right, making him choose and that not correcting the mistakes. Okay. So yes, everybody mentioned that it's beyond the level of comprehension. The question about what is she wearing? That's true. So was there
Exactly.
anything good? Because it wasn't like totally a bad
Yeah.
example.
Come on. We did something right.
So the vocabulary is not appropriate. Okay, the second question was too long. That's true. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Actually, you identified the wrong part of this class just very well. So
Yes.
first of all, about something that was right. There was a great start. Actually, Sarah asked me a question that was very simple. She supported her question with some props, and also it was an alternative question, which is quite easy for the student to answer. So it was quite good. It was age and level appropriate. Also, the question with counting, she modeled for me, so for me to actually count. And by this point, the student can count to like 3 or 5. So, but obviously, as you mentioned before, the second question or the third question was way too complicated for the student. And it happens in real classes more often than you think, because I reacted very quickly to the first few questions. And then Sarah decided that probably the student is more advanced than so their level. And decided to upgrade the question, which is good, but you shouldn't upgrade the question like 3 levels. And we all can agree about that. So that's great. Okay, guys, how can we actually help our students?
Okay, so first of all, we have CCQs, which are concept checking questions, and follow-up questions. These both need to be age and level appropriate, as we've mentioned, to suit the student's level. CCQs are a great way to discover what your student actually understands or not. Remember, simple questions are not always so simple, so it's best to start off with the simplest thing that you can think of and build from there. For example, in slide A, here we have just learned the vocabulary wall, floor, piano, plant, etc. So I will start by saying, what can you see? The student tells me she can see a sofa. I extend by asking her, what color is it? And at this level, they have not learned the color gray, but if your student is advanced enough, you can teach them the color gray. So we move on. I then ask, is there a green wall? And you can tell by the student's response whether they have grasped the vocabulary or not. I also circle the plant and say, what's this? Now the student has already learned the phrase, it's a, so she can respond by saying, it's a plant. As you notice, I am using a few different types of questions to keep the student interested, and she's answering the questions by talking back to me. Obviously, we are practicing those speaking skills. Okay. Also, yes or no questions limit the speaking output of your student, but it's a great way to introduce the sentence structure and then elicit longer sentences from there. Next, in slide B, I like to let the student have more of an interactive experience by getting them to circle the doll and then circle all the dolls and then count the dolls. By this stage, we have already talked about plurals as well, so your student should be able to say the correct phrase, 2 dolls. Again, you're just trying to give the student the opportunity to speak by guiding them in such a way that makes them feel secure. So, next one is teaching aids. All right, teaching aids help beginner learners a lot. For example, in slide A, we have just finished naming the colors. I have my trusty flashcards here, and we practice saying them a few times, and then I'll say, is this green? And get your student to answer yes or no. And it's important that you get your student to verbally answer you, not just nod or shake their head, because that's not practicing their speaking skills. You can also use different relia. So I can say, is this a pink star? And is this a yellow ball? You know, you have a lot of different things that you can use to get your even reserve students to come out of their shell a little bit. And next, we have slide B. This can be a very difficult concept for some students. They usually respond by saying, I am boy or I am girl. So I use my props that you saw earlier, the boy and the girl, and I will say, I'm, and get the student to respond. Get them to respond, and girl. And you slowly build up so that the pace sounds a bit more natural. I'm a girl. Okay, and we go from there. Also, toys are great teaching aids because they make your students feel more comfortable. So I have my little teddy bear here, and if I have a really shy student, I will talk to the teddy. And, you know, 9 times out of 10, your student will want to get involved and have fun. I also have some little finger puppets and I make silly voices, hello, and the students really love that. And then, you know, they come out of their shell and talk a little bit more. Okay, and then we have TPR or gestures. So TPR, which is total physical response, is an important way to help your students understand what you are actually asking. So, for example, I will start by saying, it's, with my finger, a ball. And you get your student to repeat after every word. And again, make it easier for them to understand slowly but surely. And then by using a lot of gestures as well and hand movements and finger counting, it just really helps to solidify the phrases. So we can practice again. It's a doll. And this really just helps your students. Now, by this stage, they should be able to say it independently once they have grasped what you're saying. Then moving on to a bit more of a complex slide, in slide B, we have a longer phrase. So I will circle the ball and say, what's this? The student has learned the phrase, it's a ball already, and I'll change it up and say, what color? The student says, oh, yellow. So we say, it's a yellow ball. And you just practice this slowly and get the student comfortable with saying the 4-word phrase. By this stage, you can then circle the next one and your student should be able to tell you it's a green ball. By breaking it down and giving them that visual cue of you using your fingers to count, you just really solidify that for the students. Of course, it depends on your student as well, how fast they grasp the topic or not, but it's important not to push them. You know, you want to guide them gently. Okay, and let's move on. 1 second. Okay. One more tip to note is that you can also snap and clap and make a rhythm for the students. So you can say, it's a ball. And a lot of the students will try and click and follow along. Or you can say, it's a doll. And it just really helps. But you will figure out which technique works best for your student. Okay, and lastly, we have modeling. So here I will draw number 1 and circle the doll and say, 1 doll. Get your student to repeat. Similarly, you'll say 2 dolls and really emphasize the S sound so that your students know the difference between 1 and 2 dolls. Then you can repeat with the kites. If your student grasps onto it quickly, they should be able to do it independently. Next, I will circle and say, what's this? The student already knows how to say 1 doll. Same thing without 2. I'll say, what are these? And the student can say 2 dolls. So you've really just giving the students the groundwork so that they can build speaking on their own. And I know we are talking about beginner students, but sometimes you get those older students that may not be fluent in expressing themselves. So here in slide C, I will show you what I usually do. I will say, I love swimming. What do you love doing? And then the student can tell you what they love doing. Now, a quick tip. It's important to ask what they love doing, because as I figured out, if you just ask what they love, you will get some answers like my family or my dog, which is adorable, but it's not what you want with this slide. So you need to be specific when asking your student questions. Okay, and that is it for our modeling. And now to summarize, there are a lot of reasons why your students may not be good at speaking, but today we've discussed a lot of techniques that you can use to help your advanced students to speak more, as well as your beginner students to develop their speaking skills too. I really hope that you have gathered a lot of tips and tricks and can use this in your classroom. It's also important to create a positive learning environment for your students and adapt the material to their needs so that you can take things from simple to complex to allow for a good lesson flow and boost your students' confidence so that they can reach their potential. You also need to be patient, don't be too demanding, and at this stage, the students' comfort is more crucial than their excellence. Of course, you want them to have fun most of all. So be entertaining, be loud, be animated, be fun, and you are guaranteed to have your students return for more.
Thank you so much. So I think that they were wonderful tips, and thank you guys for commenting in the chat box. I saw that you all have your own techniques for finger counting, and they all are great. So basically, that's it for today's topic, but we haven't finished yet. We still have our Q&A session to come, and we have just a few questions. If you still have them, please type them in the chat box. If you asked them before, don't worry, we have them recorded. But before we actually move on to the Q&A session, I wanted to remind you of other projects that we have for NovaKid teachers. And, you know, after each webinar, we ask for feedback. And thank you so much for sharing your ideas with us. They're really valuable. And very often we hear that, for example, the webinars are great, but you would like to some more interaction. You would like to share more or to hear more teachers speaking. So basically, for that, we have our teacher boost camp. So this is a set of training sessions that is aimed at improving teachers' performance. It will help you to improve your conversion and retention rate. And also, it's conducted by our very talented trainers from our teacher development team. And every month we gather together some very talented teachers to discuss some tips and tricks. It can be really, really useful and fun. So if you haven't participated in this project and you're interested, you can answer the corresponding question in the feedback form after the webinar. So also another project that I wanted to remind you about is our peer mentorship program. You know that we have some one-on-one and group workshops from our NovaKid teachers, and they're really fun. And so basically, it also covers some of the pains that we can't feature real classes in our webinars, but you can do it during our peer mentorship sessions, and you can discuss your real classes with your colleagues and probably get a lot of insights. So again, if you haven't participated yet and if you're interested, let us know in the chat, in the feedback form, and there will be a corresponding question. Great. Okay, so that finishes it, and let's move on to our Q&A session. Thank you so much. So we have just two questions so far. And the first one, Jessa asks, is it okay to say, what do we say to probe or to elicit the correct answer? I think so. So, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
let's finish the presentation, okay?
Okay, shall I? Yeah, stop sharing. There we go. Yeah, sorry, I was just looking in the chat here.
It's okay, guys. So it's okay to say what do we say or any other phrase to elicit the correct answer. So basically, this is a good clarification request. You can use something else. So you can just ask the same question. For example, if I made a mistake with, I don't know, I say I have pizza instead of I had pizza. So you can ask, what did you have? It is the same, actually. So, but of course, it depends on your student's level. you can't use it for level 0 students, because probably they will not understand what you want from them. But if your student already if your student already has some prior knowledge, then it's fine, I think. What do you think, Sarah?
Yes, I think so. I think another one that you can say is, are you sure? I've used that a few times, and it just really makes the students think like, okay, what did I do wrong? And then, they can go back and correct it. So there are a few different things that you can say to get your students to self-correct.
Yeah, and it definitely it works better than just, correcting the answer, because it is also a good error correction technique, but it doesn't provide any opportunities for self-correction, and probably your student will just ignore that, and it will also not be good for their speaking output. So if you can provide some self-correction for a student, please do so. I think that it works perfectly. Okay, somebody says, I also show confused face. Yes, it's completely the same, and it reduces your teacher talk time even more, so it works.
Exactly.
We have one more question from Agnes, and I saw that our teachers already discussed it a lot in the chat box. Some students find it hard to say I'm. Is it okay to say I am instead?
Yeah, I would say so. Obviously, in our slides, we have I'm, which is a shorter version, but like I said, they do struggle saying that. So I am, if the student is more comfortable using that, then I think that's not a problem. It means the same thing.
by the point that you learn contractions, right? So because if the target material of your class is actually contractions, and you expect your student to say a shorter version, then it's not okay. Then we should insist on using the correct option. But if not, it's still a correct sentence. I don't see a problem with that. I'm sorry. Especially, somebody also mentioned that sometimes parents insist on pronouncing I am because it's more academic, or I don't know. Sometimes their school teacher insists on saying the full sentence. So as long as it's not the target material, let them use the correct and more comfortable option, right? So great. Okay, we have one more question from Jacoby. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing the names wrong. So should we involve the parents when teaching very shy students?
That's I have before. I've had a very, very young student, I think 3 years old, who just sat there. And then, you're 5 minutes in, you're trying to get them to be excited and join in. And then I'll say, oh, mum, okay, what's this color? What's this? And then mum can repeat. And then, the student sees that their mom's involved and they're like, oh, okay, red. So, yeah, I think it is okay. Obviously, you don't want too much parent interaction, but I think just a little bit like that is okay.
Especially if the parent is already involved. Everybody mentioned already that parent interference can be a real problem when getting a student to speak. So if you involve them too much, probably you will replace one problem with another. So that's why be careful with that. But sometimes I think if the parents, and you can see that the parents have some adequate reaction to your teaching style, then why not? So also it depends. But if the parents are not very keen on this idea, let's say, so probably don't do that. So working with shy students takes time, and sometimes you need to just provide them with time and patience, and they will open up.
Yeah. Exactly. Lisa, sorry, I've spotted one more question, which I thought was really good because we discussed it in our webinar preparation, actually. This is from Jessica. When students are reading longer passages, more advanced students, and they pronounce a word incorrectly, thinking along the lines of not enjoying being interrupted, best way to correct. So we were going to do an example like this, actually. So it's best to wait until the student has finished that passage. And then what I'll do is I'll go back to the word they mispronounced and underline it and say, what's this word? And it gives them a chance to actually say it correctly. If not, then you can obviously say to them, right, this is what it is, and then get them to repeat, and then you can move on. So like we mentioned, delayed error correction because you don't want to interrupt your students.
Yeah, that's right. And reading long text is also a fluency activity, as strange as it sounds. So, of course, delayed error correction is preferable. You don't want to drop them, especially if they make more than one mistake. You know, can you imagine if you like interrupt them every time? Of course, if they are very good readers and they make only one mistake, nothing happens if you correct them immediately. But I would wait. Also, another, you can do something in between, and many teachers do that. I observed that in the classroom. So when you don't correct, you don't interrupt, but you underline the word that where your student made a mistake, and they can choose. They can correct it immediately, or they can ignore, and then you can pay their attention after they finished reading the text.
Yeah, exactly, Lisa. So with our slides, when we have like a few different bubbles of text, you can wait for the student to finish that one and then help them with the words there and then move on to the next one. So you can also break down the task like that.
Mm-hmm. So great. We have one more question. It's going to be the last question that we will answer. So also, guys, just to remind, if you have to go, we totally understand. So please don't forget to fill in the feedback form that is pinned now to the chat box. So don't forget about that. And our last question for today, please, what do you do when a student's parent is too involved in the classes?
Eesh.
I can start answering this question because I think that
Sure.
It's like we've discussed it a lot throughout our webinars, also in our teacher portal articles. It can really be a problem, but what can you actually do? So first of all, one way you can try and involve the parent, as we discussed before. So in this case, they will answer only when you want them to answer. The other way, so it also, you need to see what kind of a person there is. But sometimes what works is you can say, "Thank you, mom." So John, something like that. And just it took me so long to come up with the name. Sorry. Literally, this will show mom that it's like she's actually participating in the lesson, because sometimes they don't notice, sometimes they do it just to help their child, because parents don't like seeing their children like struggling, they want to help them. Of course, you can also use the teacher feedback to let the parent know in a polite form that probably it will be better if the student is working like independently. So very often it helps, sometimes it doesn't. But when you have paid your attention to this problem, you have already mentioned it in the feedback form, and so sometimes you've already asked the support team to probably contact them and let them know that it is a problem, and nothing helps, then let it go. So because sometimes you can't do anything about that, and it's okay. So because parents are worried about their children, and sometimes you can change their parenting style, right? So if you have any other ideas, so please share. Okay, great. Thank you so much. I think that we are already a little bit late. Thank you so much for active participation. I really loved the chat today.
It was great.
Thank you, Sarah, for taking your time.
Thank you, Lisa.
Be the speaker. So thank you, Alona, for moderating our chat today. And have a nice evening or night or morning. So have a nice time, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
And also for the parents of children who are going to school tomorrow, good luck, guys. Have fun. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.